Happy birthday as well.
Thank you very much. Yes, well, it will be an even happier birthday or birthday week if Arsenal can win tomorrow. So I think we'll start with that. They're about to kick off their pre-season tour against AC Milan in Singapore on Wednesday. Not the actual sort of start of their pre-season. They had that behind closed doors win against Watford at the weekend, but this will be the first that the fans can see of Arsenal this summer. So first of all, just how good or maybe how stressful will it be to see the boys back in action again?
That'd be good. It's just nice to have football to talk about, Ben, isn't it? I think, this is actually kind of what we do, isn't it? This is what it all rolls around, actual football. The last couple of months, I know we all love the transfer window. It's always sort of entertaining, stressful, however, whatever we want to describe it as. But at the end of the day, that's kind of secondary to what we actually all love this game for, and that's actual football. So for it to actually be back, to see it on the pitch, to see some of the new signings in action, over the next couple of weeks or so while they're on tour is going to be great. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be preseason matches are always unpredictable because you're going to have Arteta will most likely start with one team and then completely change the team maybe sort of during the game or at half time. But from what we know of, so this is an AC Milan side that now have Allegri as their head
Mm.
coach, who replaced Conceição at the end of last season. Previously linked with Arsenal back when Wenger left. Of course, Unai Emery came, but Allegri was linked with the Gunners back then. A very pragmatic coach, as we know, quite, fiery on the touchline, but he's become renowned for his sort of defensive style of play. And if we look back to last season, which I don't think Arsenal fans would really want to, but if we do look back to last season, Arsenal really struggled against the teams with those low blocks who set up in a very sort of defensive style. Of course, as I say, completely unpredictable as to how the teams are going to set up, who is going to play, how they're going to play. But given what we know of Allegri and how he likes to play, could this be good practice for Arsenal, breaking down a low block, a defensive setup? How do you think this friendly is going to pan out?
It's so hard to predict, isn't it, with these games, especially the first one of the summer. Like you said, we don't know what sort of team he's going to play. Will it be half an hour for some people, 60 minutes for others? Will it be 45? So it's really hard to sort of predict, I think. And I don't think at this stage performance is really. I mean, you want the team to play well, of course you do, but I don't think it's the be all and end all. I think that sort of comes when they get back from the tour. Certainly, the two games at the Emirates, I think, are the ones where you really sort of look to performance and want to see those really improving ahead of the start of the new season. Right now, it's just about fitness. It's about getting minutes into the players' legs. You want to see some good things form. You want to see some good partnerships. Maybe I'm really interested to see Zubamendi. I think that's going to be a really, really intriguing part of this summer tour. How he gets on, how he immediately starts to link up with Martin Odegaard, for example, how that partnership's going to work. Because let's face it, I think that partnership's going to be absolutely crucial to how Arsenal get on this season. So those are the things that I'm really looking at. I'm not too bothered on how Milan will sort of set up or how they're going to play. I don't think Arteta will be too worried about that either. I think he'll just want to see some signs, certainly from some of the new signings, from some of the maybe the players who ended last season injured, see that how their fitness is. Gabriel played 45 minutes against Watford, for example, and came through that fine. That's really, really positive. Shows that the plan to get him ready for the start of pre-season has worked, and Saliba as well, by all accounts, is very similar with that. So those are the main things I think we're going to be looking out for tomorrow, rather than sort of patterns of play and how Milan line up, how Arsenal line up. I think at this stage of pre-season, the summer, it's all about minutes, it's all about fitness, and maybe a couple of clues in terms of how some partnerships are going to work.
Yeah, like you say, the result is quite trivial. Of course, we want Arsenal to win as Arsenal fans, but we're not going to be losing sleep over what happens. As you say, it's just about as many
Some
players
will.
getting. Yeah, okay. Well, each to their own, but yeah, I
Yeah.
will try to sleep it off if possible. Well, fingers crossed, Arsenal will hopefully win, but like you say, I mean, it's completely unpredictable. It's just about getting those minutes into as many players' legs as possible. You mentioned Zubamendi there. Of course, he could come straight into that number six role. Norgard's also on tour. Kepa, Arrizabalaga as well. I mean, we've just spoken about how it is going to be so unpredictable, the actual game itself. But and in terms of predicting a starting lineup, that could be, quite a fool's errand as well, should we say? But I mean, do you think we might see a really strong starting 11 at first, maybe even Zubamendi starting the game and then switching to, bringing on young players and fringe players in the second half? I mean, if you can predict who you think will start or how you think Arsenal will line up, what would you say?
Yeah, it's so hard, isn't it, at this stage? Because I think again, a lot of it depends on the fitness, and we just don't know. We haven't seen the data, how fit these players are, who's maybe a bit behind other people. When did Saliba, Timber, and Gabriel sort of start their fitness work, and how are those injuries that they ended last season with? So it's really really hard to predict. I do think he'll go relatively strong early on. Obviously, there's quite a few youngsters. I think 7 or 8 have gone out on tour. I'd be very surprised if any of those guys are starting, and if they do get any minutes, that'll be late on. So initially it'll be pretty strong, but it might be some mix and match as well. We might, obviously you could have a Zinchenko starting, for example, but he's not going to start when the season starts. It's going to be Calafiori or Lewis Skelly. So it is still quite a strong squad that's gone over there, and Arteta's going to look to utilize it all. So, but I think it'll be pretty strong. I mean, I think. Will it be Ben White? Will it be during today? It's just, I always do a predicted 11 on the day of a game. It's something I always do on like my channels and stuff like that. And I will try and do one tomorrow, but I know it's like an absolute hopeless task. It's going to be impossible to predict it. It'll be, it's like doing the lottery type numbers in this stage of the season. But you'd imagine it will be White or Timber right back. If they're fit, Saliba and Gabriel will probably start early on and get 45 minutes in their legs. Lewis Skelly the same. I do think Zubamendi will start. I'll be surprised if he doesn't. I'm sure Norgard will come on in the second half. And as I said, I'd love to start seeing some signs of that Zubamendi, Odegaard, Rice trio, because it is new and that is how the season's going to start, barring any injuries. And I think they sort of getting those three used to each other and learning how they're going to play with Zubamendi at the base of that three is going to be so important because of the start to the season Arsenal have got, how tough it is. So you want that straight away, basically. As many minutes as you can possibly get with those three playing together in pre-season, the better. If that's the starting three tomorrow, I think that's going to be the really key thing to look at. And then, it's definitely not going to be Gyökeres up front tomorrow. So you imagine it's going to be Kai Havertz starting up front with, Saka and then one of the two left-sided players.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about the Gyökeres situation. We won't because, I mean, I think we both know it's just sort of getting those final details over the line. There's no real concerns there. But like you say, Havertz up front, potentially. I actually did my sports mold predicted 11 for it. I think I went with an Odegaard, Zubamendi, Rice midfield three. So like you say, hopefully we'll see that. You mentioned the youngsters there. You've got, of course, Max Dowman is the standout name who's on tour. There's another 15-year-old, Marley Simon, I think his name is. I mean,
Mm.
Dowman, of course, we've spoken quite a bit about him previously. He's been in and around the first team for a long time. He can finally make his competitive debut this season. Fingers crossed. Of course, that'll be up to Arteta and the coach's discretion, but he is on the tour. Do you think we could potentially see an unofficial debut for him against Milan or maybe a little bit later on the tour?
I think I was having this conversation yesterday. I think he'll use him in these games. I really think he's trained so much with the squad for the last 9 months or so without being able to play. This is an opportunity for him to play in front of some fans. And I don't think Arteta will really hold him back. He's not going to play loads next season in the Premier League. Of course he's not. But I think he'll get some minutes during this tour. So I think we will see him tomorrow. Yeah, I think in the second half, I think he'll come on. And I think that's going to, I think Arsenal fans around the world are desperate to see what this kid can do. We've all spoken about him. We've all heard about him. And this is the first real opportunity we're going to get, certainly in a first team environment, to sort of see him around these players. So yeah, I think we'll see him play tomorrow. I'll be surprised if we don't.